Welcome to the Bee Rescued Propolis Care Wellness Webcast. My name is Mo, and I am the CEO of Little Honeys LLC. I am your guide to better wellness today. Do you like the music? That music's new. That's something that we didn't have before. But as this webcast grows, so do we. Hopefully, in my case, in some mass. I'm a skinny little runt. Even Norman's laughing on that one, shaking his head. Self-deprecating humor. Hey, if you can't laugh at yourself, you got no business laughing at other people. I'll point and laugh at you in just a little bit, Norm. This is the weekly wellness webcast. My name is Mo. I'm CEO of Little Honeys LLC, and we make your Bee Rescued Propolis Care and your Bee Energized Raw Bee Pollen products. Before we get any further, let me just say that I am not a doctor. I do not play one on TV. I do not wish to play one on TV. I look silly in a stethoscope. Kind of like an anemic elephant or an aardvark. At any rate, I am not a doctor, nor is this webcast intended to diagnose, treat, prevent, or cure any disease. If you have any further questions with regard to wellness and health, make sure you contact your licensed physician. Last week we spoke about ticks. We sat down, we talked about ticks a little bit, and I showed you how to make your own tick repellent. If any of you are using that, please get in contact with me and let me know how it's going. I'd love to know. This week we're going to change gears a little bit, and we are going to discuss... Where is that? We're going to discuss the issue of poison control warnings on your toothpaste. You don't believe me, do you? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hit pause on this if you're watching this in the archive video. If you're watching it live, just go ahead and get up. You're not going to miss too much. But I want you to go into your medicine cabinet, get your toothpaste, and I want you to look at the warning labels that the federal government has put on there for your safety. And I want you to ask yourself a question. Is this toothpaste in my hands that I've been brushing my teeth with, that I've been telling my children to brush their teeth with, that I've been giving to my mate to brush their teeth with, is this toothpaste poison? Is that a silly question? Well, it's not. This is a question that has been lingering for quite some time, and let me read you something from the Washington Post, June 16th, 1997. Told you it was been around for a while. June 16th, 1997. How Safe is Toothpaste? By Don Oldenburg, Washington Post staff writer at the time. Last month, as 8-year-old Molly Stat stood in the bathroom brushing her teeth, something on the back of the large-sized tube of Crest caught her attention. She stopped brushing. Looking up at her father standing beside her, she motioned to the toothpaste and asked, "Is this poison?" "Of course not," Paul Stat reassured his daughter. "Then why does it say poison on it?" she asked. Stat looked closer on the label on the back of the tube. In small print were warnings he hadn't noticed before, including one that read, "If you accidentally swallow more than used for brushing, seek professional help or contact Poison Control Center immediately." And in fact, on many of these tubes, somewhere on the packaging, either on the box that it comes in or on the tube itself, you've actually got the Poison Control hotline printed on there. Well, why is that? Well, it's because of the fluoride that's found in toothpaste. Fluoride is actually pretty scary stuff. The American Dental Association, even though fluoride has the ADA seal of approval, they do say don't swallow it. They do say use only a pea size for children under 6. Children under 6 should be supervised while brushing with any toothpaste to prevent swallowing. But the word poison's not used. It's some scary stuff, that fluoride. Now, it's put in water, so it's got to be safe, right? Well, guess what? Some of the other stuff that's found in water is not necessarily safe, is not good for you. And in fact, when they test water for purity, they're not testing to make sure that there is no lead in the water. They're not testing to make sure that there is no heavy metal in the water. They're testing to make sure that there are, quote, acceptable levels. So, guess what? You might want to rethink your municipal water supply. I'm not telling you this to scare the pants off of you. I'm telling you this so that we can start using some common sense. Now, here's the problem with fluoride. Fluoride has this nasty, too much fluoride. Let me put it this way. Too much fluoride, for example, in heavy tea drinkers. Fluoride can be found in tea. Too much fluoride in heavy tea drinkers can cause skeletal fluorosis. It's a bone disease that very closely mimics osteoarthritis. And in fact, osteoarthritis is one of the biggest health problems in America today. It's huge. I think there's something like 23 million Americans have osteoarthritis, have been diagnosed. That's pretty scary stuff. Now, one of the other difficulties with having fluoride in the water supply and in your toothpaste is, let me just read you this. Today, the most recent national data from the Centers of Disease Control show that 41% of Americans, adolescents, now have dental fluorosis, with 3% of children having moderate to severe forms of the condition. That's pretty widespread. When you have 41% of American teenagers, they've got dental fluorosis. Now that's epidemic. That's frightening. 3% of children are showing moderate to severe forms of dental fluorosis. Well, how are you gonna address this with your family? Well, it's this fluorosis thing. It's not going to happen to me. I have osteoarthritis. That's not fluorosis. Well, remember last week when we discussed tick-borne diseases? And we talked about how one of the problems with diagnosing tick-borne disease is that the symptoms of tick-borne disease are so generalized that someone thinks that they've just got themselves a really nasty flu bug that won't go away, or someone's diagnosed with some neurological problem, and really it's a tick-borne disease. Someone might even be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and in reality it's a tick-borne disease. Well, here you've got an issue of a disease that mimics one of the top-ranking, most prevalent diseases in the United States today. Skeletal fluorosis, mimicking osteoarthritis. And people are just living in denial. People don't want to admit that not only is it coming in through my water supply, maybe I should think about a filter for heavy metals, Not only is it coming in through the water supply, but we're also bringing it into our homes in the form of toothpaste. And then, because culture is kind of part of the culture at this point, we're telling our kids, you must brush your teeth at least twice a day. Well, yes, you should brush your teeth. But what are you brushing your teeth with? You're brushing it with fluoride. Well, the ADA says, just don't swallow it. You'll be fine. But wait a minute. That mucous membrane that lines the inside of my mouth? Why do you think that oftentimes homeopathic drugs are issued sublingually? Homeopathic medicine, not drugs. Homeopathics are often administered sublingually because they dissolve into that mucal membrane in the body, and they penetrate and they get carried throughout the body. Why do you think that just simply holding something like, well, for instance, I remember years ago I read where if you take typical over-the-counter mouthwash and then you hold in your mouth and you spit it out, your blood level, alcohol, goes up a little bit. Well, why is that? Because the mucal membrane in your mouth is so good at absorbing. It's so good at absorbing. It's better, the mucal membrane in your mouth is better at absorbing than the skin on the outside of your body. There's more capillaries, there's more blood near the surface to interact with that substance that's going into your mouth. There's more blood to interact with what's in my tea mug here than there would be just in my skin here. Which means I absorb it quicker in my mouth. Which means, guess what, ADA? Just because you ain't swallowing it doesn't mean you're not going to have some problems, that you're not going to get the residual effects of too much of this stuff. Well, what are your options? Well, there's toothpastes out there in the natural products market that don't have any fluoride. Well, you look at some of them. Tom's of Maine has some of their toothpaste line that don't have fluoride in it. But you start looking at the other stuff that's in there. Sodium lauryl sulfate. No thank you. That stuff is a very reactive compound that likes to grab hold of some of the other ingredients in the list and well, they combine together and they make a whole lot of yuck. You've got titanium oxide. You've got a whole list of copious amounts of ingredients that I can't even pronounce. And they're all blending together. They're all chemically combining. And they all work together in the body. And they all cause problems in the body. Now, Bee Rescued makes a toothpaste, this stuff here, that is very simple. I think I read the ingredient list to you last week when we were talking about H. pylori bacteria. The ingredient list is water, baking soda, xanthan gum, propolis extract, grapefruit oil, clove oil, and tea tree oil. That's it. No fluoride. No sodium lauryl sulfate, none of the stuff that you would normally find in the other toothpaste. But then some people say, what's going to be in this toothpaste that is going to create the... Well, what's in this toothpaste that's going to replace the fluoride in my crest? Well, guess what? There's nothing in here that's going to replace the fluoride in crest because the fluoride's something that's not good for you. The stuff that we have in here that's going to cause the teeth to actually be stronger and healthier is called propolis. Pro before polis, the city. It was named by Aristotle, and it was actually first prescribed, pardon me, I can't talk today. It was actually first prescribed medicinally by Plato. And he prescribed it for ulcers, internal and external. Well, what do we know now about ulcers? We know that ulcers are caused by bacterial infections. What is it about propolis that is so good for bacterial infections, and what does that have to do with the mouth? Well, propolis is used in the beehive. These ladies right here, I went out and got them this morning. It was beautiful. The bees were just enjoying the morning. It was a slight drizzle out. The birds were singing. It was just beautiful. And these ladies here started to come into my bee suit because I had this little zipper on the side that you can go in and get into your pocket with, and I had that zipper down, and so they were coming in and they were saying hello to me now and again. Got a few stings, but these ladies right here use the propolis antibacterially, antimicrobially, antivirally, and antifungally. Let me read you this. From 1991, a study published on Medline, the effects of propolis on dental caries in rats, coming out of Koriyama, Japan. Propolis, the resinous hive products collected by bees, is important in the defense of the hive. The effects of propolis on growth of the Streptococcus sobrinus, Streptococcus mutans, Streptococcus cricetus, on dental caries in rats infected with these bacteria. Well, what this study shows is that the propolis had a wonderfully strong effect on killing that bacteria that was causing the dental carie. For those of you who are wondering what a dental carie is the fancy term for cavity. You got a cavity, it's caused by an infection. It's caused by an infection of bacteria. Well, what this study did was it showed that propolis kills that bacteria, coming out of Koriyama, Japan. That's impressive. Now, unlike some of the other toothpastes that are out there, this toothpaste here is loaded with so much propolis that it actually changes the color from white to this dark brown, sometimes green, sometimes red color. Now, why would these guys make a toothpaste that changes color? Well, it's very simple. They make a toothpaste that changes color because they're using a propolis that is natural. They're using ingredients that are natural, and they're using so much propolis that propolis changes color throughout the year because of different resin sources, and that will change the color of the batch because they're adding so much propolis to that batch. So that's a good thing. It's one of the signs that this is natural and pure and very holistic and wholesome. I know I'm throwing out a lot of words here that may seem redundant, but I'm using these words for a reason. Now, wow, we're getting quite a few questions here. People calling in and checking in via Facebook, it looks like. So I'm going to have to get moving because we're running short on time. This is fantastic. Thank you all for joining in with us, being a part of this webcast. How's that for an awkward transition? Dan from Chicago, he's asking, what is the difference between propolis and royal jelly, and can they be used interchangeably for wellness? Well, that's an excellent question, Dan. Here's the thing. Propolis has two ingredients. Propolis has saliva from the bees, excretions from the mandibular glands, and resin from specific plants. And the bees will go out and they will gather that resin and they'll mix it with their saliva, put it together, and they'll put it in their hip pockets that we talked about a couple of weeks ago in our pollen broadcast. They'll put it in those hip pockets and they'll fly home. And they'll use that propolis to polish out the little individual cells. They'll use it to fill gaps in the colony. They'll use it to glue frames down. They'll use it to glue boxes together. Now, that propolis has two ingredients, the plant resins and their own saliva. Royal jelly has two ingredients. It's got mandibular gland excretions and it's got pharyngeal gland excretions. Now, depending on which type of royal jelly it is, it will be either 30%, it'll either be 70% mandibular gland excretion, 30% pharyngeal gland together, and that's what they'll feed to the larvae of the worker bees and the drones. If they need to make a queen, they'll give them a higher octane royal jelly, which is 70% pharyngeal gland, 30% mandibular. They put it together, and that is actually the recipe for turning on the genetics within those larvae so that they will become a queen and develop in 1/3 less time than their sisters, but physically they will be developing 1 to 2/3 larger, and they will actually have their entire body fully developed, as opposed to the worker bee, which is, again, smaller, takes 7 days longer than the queen to mature, go through metamorphosis, and does not have the ability to fertilize eggs. So you've got this great royal jelly, which historically has been used for energy and stamina to a certain degree. It's been used primarily topically for cosmetics. Wonderful from that respect. Wonderful for putting on and toning up that skin and nourishing that skin. In fact, it's excellent for leaking capillaries. You know, the dark circles that I have under my eyes because I was up most of the night. What a beautiful thing. It's excellent for healing those leaking capillaries. Now, propolis historically has been used more internally than externally. Now, there have been a lot of studies that show the efficacy for using propolis internally, coming out of Japan, coming out of India, coming out of Germany, the UK. However, propolis has been used antibiotically within the body, not royal jelly. Royal jelly, again, topically excellent, wonderful for those dark circles because it helps heal those leaking capillaries, penetrates deeply, great for energy. Propolis is more of the heavy hitter, though. We talked about how Plato prescribed it for ulcers. We also know that propolis is often called Russian penicillin because the Russians historically in their folklore medicine have used it for treating bacterial infections, treating viral infections. You get sick, what do? You make a tea with this propolis, you drink it on down, you feel a lot better. So the difference wellness-wise between propolis and royal jelly, propolis is what you take. You can put it topically like we would for our balm, for healing things on the skin. Excellent for that. But you also take it internally to help boost the immune system. There have been a lot of studies as of recently that show that propolis may help turn on the apoptosis of rogue cancer cells. Did I say it cures cancer? No, I did not. I said it may turn on apoptosis. Certain Chinese herbs have been touted for the possibility of turning on the apoptosis within cancer cells. What's apoptosis? Apoptosis is that self-destruct switch that is built into every cell within your body. That self-destruct switch is there for when these cells go rogue and the body's immune system needs to shut them down. Well, that self-destruct switch gets turned on, that apoptosis, the cell literally kills itself, and the body then metabolizes it and gets rid of that rogue cell. Well, oftentimes what happens with cancer is that apoptosis gets it gets derailed, that function, and that cell can no longer die, it can no longer kill itself, and in fact oftentimes the immune system is tricked into thinking, hey, it's okay here. So the trick is to get something that is going to turn that apoptosis back on. Now again, I'm not saying this cures the disease. I'm saying it may turn apoptosis back on in cells. So, Dan, I hope that answers your question. It's a very in-depth question. I hope that helps. Sue from Wisconsin wants to know if pollen would be good for ADD or ADHD problems. Well, Sue, again, number one, if you're dealing with a child with ADD or ADHD, I take my hat off to you, because my poor mother had to deal with one of those. Hey, look, a shiny light. Would pollen be good for ADD or ADHD? Let me just say that pollen is very good for any hormonal type based problem. Now, is ADD, ADHD a hormonally based problem? When you get right down to it, hormones play a huge part in that ADD, ADHD. And what happens is the pollen has been shown to possibly help balance the neurotransmitters within the brain, which help bring that ADD, ADHD back under control. In fact, we actually know of a practicing psychiatrist down in the Chicagoland area who, before he retired, used to give his teenage patients that would come in, for teenagers with depression, teenagers with ADHD, and he would talk to them about these things, and he would then, in addition to the talk therapy, he would prescribe them bee pollen before he prescribed them the traditional pharmacological pharma answers. The reason was the pollen having all of the nutrients that your body needs, all of the vitamins, minerals, proteins, and you've heard me discuss this before. Because that pollen has all of this packed in there so well, and because it absorbs into the body so well, it's going to help the body come back into equilibrium. And so any part, the chemical part of that ADD, ADHD will get a little bit better. It will come back into balance a little more. My old violin teacher, I quote her a lot. She used to say, you eat good food, you don't get sick. Well, you give your body the right tools to fight its battles. You give the body the right tools to repair itself. You give the body the right fuel to run itself with, and your body is going to be within balance. The idea is balance when you're talking health and wellness. Something gets out of balance, something gets out of whack. And when something's out of balance, that means something's hypofunctioning. When something's hypofunctioning, something else is going to be hyperfunctioning. Bring it back into balance. We are totally out of time. Dan and Sue, thank you for your questions. Beth and some of you others who had gotten us questions in, I'm sorry that we weren't able to use your questions on this webcast. We're actually running long already, but we will archive your questions and possibly use them for a later program. For all of you that have joined in, thank you. For all of you that are watching us on the archived copy on YouTube or on Ustream, thank you for joining us. Don't forget, you can contact us at beerescuedonline.com. You can also buy our products there. Look for us on Facebook and Twitter. And let me just say thank you from my family, the Wolf family that runs Bee Rescued. And thank you on behalf of our bees for continuing to use our products. Whoop, there's the music. They are telling me we're out. Quick half hour. Thank you for joining me.